Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Brookline Access Television's show, The Safety Net, devoted to domestic violence, elder abuse, sexual harassment, discrimination, and in this time of COVID, other pertinent issues. My name is Susan Howards. I'm a local attorney who focuses on domestic violence. And with me today, we are thrilled to have Heather Hersee, who is an aging life care professional, AKA a geriatric care manager. Heather works with older adults to improve their quality of life and maintain their independence. She coordinates her clients' medical and psychological care and provides guidance in the areas of housing, home care, services, financial and legal planning, and resources available to elders with limited incomes. Heather has been working in the field for more than 25 years. In 2016, she founded Heather Hersee Care Management based in Waltham. Welcome, Heather. We're delighted to have you.
Susan, hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, it's our pleasure. I need to ask you a question that is not on our agenda.
Okay.
How would you define who an elder is? What age is elder? Because I've seen various ages.
Well, you know, I think of elders as well over 80, but in the world of elder abuse, it's 60 and over, basically. So so it really varies. I mean, it depends on our perception, but when I did, research for, our meeting, it was really people 60 and over.
Okay. And what is elder abuse? How
do I define it? The Centers for Disease Control defines elder abuse as an intentional act or failure to act by a caregiver or another person in a relationship involving an expectation of trust that causes or creates a risk of harm to an older adult. So that comes from the CDCs. Yeah, CDC.
Is it physical?
It can most definitely be physical.
Can you give examples of
Sure.
physical that aren't too graphic, because we don't want our viewers too upset?
No, but I mean, people being hit, people being cut, people being burned by cigarettes. So it can be physical. It's not only physical though.
Is it emotional?
Definitely, it's emotional. Emotional, it can be threats. It's sort of like an emotional psychological thing. So it can be threatening to put somebody in a nursing home or telling them they're worthless. It can be verbal abuse, which is, like telling somebody that they have no value, that they only take from the family, locking them in a room or a closet, which I have known to happen, not allowing friends or perhaps a spouse or other family members to visit, keeping them isolated. So
what economic abuse, Heather? That's what I worry about during this time of COVID, when some people are really suffering at all.
So that is definitely a problem. Financial, it can be outright stealing. It can be diversion of funds. It can be a threat by somebody saying, sign over that check or else I'll blah, blah, blah. So there is a definite amount of financial abuse. And it's interesting, scams are generally not considered elder abuse, but in a sense that isn't, it's because it's not a personal thing, I mean, it's just more a business thing, but that's another form in a sense of abuse or mistreatment of elders.
But wouldn't you say, at least it's my understanding, that scammers target elders?
They do, absolutely.
More than other age groups?
Yep.
So if they do target elders, how do we get them to say that it is elder abuse? I don't know if I'm being clear.
Right. Well, it's in my reading, in Massachusetts, they seem to kind of say it does not include scams. But when I looked at some research and writings from other areas of the country, some places do include scams.
Okay. What are other types of elder abuse?
So otherwise, abandonment, like not abandonment, maybe not visiting somebody. Maybe you were in the habit of bringing them groceries and you've stopped, whether it's, you've stopped providing something to them that they've come to rely upon, that you kind of created that expectation. So, if they had the expectation and you had been providing them with services, bathing them, taking them shopping, whatever, or just withdrawing that all of a sudden. That's, and that's been an issue. I think many elders, especially, during this time of COVID, are feeling abandoned. If that,
Heather, how do you know if somebody's abandoned? Let's say somebody's been bringing groceries, a family member. I'm just going to be very nice. And then the family member stops. Would the elder call, say, a senior center? Would they call you? Would they call their local police? How would we know if elders are feeling abandoned, particularly if they live alone, if they're not in some sort of a group setting?
that's a big problem. Often we don't know. I mean, if they don't have friends coming by or family members coming by or caretakers or some kind of advocate, somebody like myself, nobody may know. I mean, maybe some people would be assertive enough or, to call, whether it's the police or whatever. That in a sense is the best possible situation, is to, call somebody, whether it's the senior center or protective services, which, we'll get into later. But very often we just do not know.
Ooh. Are there certain elders who are more at risk than others?
Yes. Females, more female
Ooh.
victims than male victims. I guess maybe we could say more women are alive than men, but also elders who live alone or have no family and friends nearby to talk to or to check in on. Individuals with dementia, disability, memory loss. Sometimes elders who live with other family members are at risk as well. And then individuals who do not have relationships with a primary care provider with whom they have regular medical checks. So those, I would say, it's people who are isolated and really don't have a lot of contact with other people. Although certainly elder abuse can happen within a facility as well, meaning.
Right. Right. I've had cases of that. Yeah, that I understand. Who are the abusers?
Usually the caretakers. I mean,
and that could be family.
That could be family. It could be, paid caretakers, or it could be family, unpaid caretakers. So it could be a husband, a wife. It could be kids, it could be other relatives. It could be a caretaker. So it's, and I suppose, if somebody had a trusted person, not a family member, taking care of their finances, and that person started to divert funds, then that person would be an abuser as well.
Have you had experience? You've had experience with everything you've talked about, correct?
Pretty much.
And your role as a geriatric expert, do you report these incidents?
Yeah, I am legally mandated. I'm a mandated reporter, so a mandatory reporter. So if I see something, I have to file a report with Adult Protective Services. So in my career, I think I've filed 3 reports. And what, sometimes when I'll say this, in 2 of the 3 cases, actually, it was a matter of, because another aspect of elder abuse is self-neglect, either by somebody else or self-neglect. So meaning not, failing to take care of yourself. So in 2 of the 3 cases, it was a matter of self-neglect, that, people were not listening to their doctor's recommendations. They weren't eating properly. They were driving when they weren't supposed to be driving. Right. And I would, talk with them and say, this is a problem. I had one person who had a infestation of bed bugs and lived in a 6 condo unit and was at risk of being sued by the condo association, and just was in denial about it. Also had a level of dementia there too, but fought it tooth and nail. And I did have to report that person. So
Could you explain what adult protective services are and how we reach them and what they do?
yes, absolutely. So adult protective services are, I think pretty much every state has them. In Massachusetts, you can reach them, you can file a report 24 hours a day by calling 800-922-2275. This is for people who live in the community. And I actually have this list of numbers that I will kind of, hopefully I'll be able to show afterwards, just
Okay.
resources.
And maybe we can, okay.
Exactly. And then to report abuse in a hospital or skilled nursing facility, it would be calling the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. And there's an 800 number for that. So, but the number I gave for the elder abuse in the community, you can call there 24 hours a day. You will reach a live operator and they will take your report. I have to file a written report given what I do. And there are written report forms online. And I don't even have you just Google Adult Protective Services, Massachusetts. You can fill a written report. And I urge people, if they have even an inkling, a suspicion, to file a report. No harm done with filing it.
Is it anonymous, Heather?
I believe it is for individuals in the community who might be like neighbors or even family members. For me, I have to give my name.
You have to give your name. And then what will Adult Protective Services do with, let's say I file a report anonymously. Mm-hmm. What will they do with the report I file and how much time do they have to do it?
Yeah, okay, it's really varied in the responses. I had one that I filed and they were on it immediately, meaning like within less than 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's a mandated time period they have to respond, but I've had another one that I filed that was backed by one of the medical practitioners of this particular client. That took some time, like maybe a month or more.
Whoa.
And
but what's serious, like the bed bug incident, I've had cases. Bed bugs are really vicious.
They are. And that was responded to. That was the one that I had a response with less than 24 hours.
Because they
were on it. They were calling, they were, talking with people. They got to take care of. Great. They were all over it. And it turns out, in this case, what unbeknownst to me was not only was there bed bugs and the gas being left on, my client was being scammed
by
somebody via her computer and telephone calls.
Was she aware of it?
No, she wasn't aware of it, but I think she had at that point, she had maybe given them she had given them about $6,000 as I recall.
And she never got that back.
Never got that back.
Never got that back. And she had no family who was monitoring her or?
No, it was a situation where she had always been just incredibly independent. She never married, she never had kids. She just was and she still remains to this day an incredible woman. Mm-hmm. She really didn't she didn't want her family intervening. She wasn't really thrilled to see me show up in the door. And she gave them such a hard time that they backed off. And so when I initially contacted them, which I did, I spoke with her nephew who had been her, person to be in contact with. He's like, we've tried and it just doesn't do any good. And I said, well, then I'm going to I said, I just tell you, I have to report her to Adult Protective Services. So just know that, and I mean, it's my job. And actually, so after I filed the report, his wife did step in and she is now involved. And I work with her, but she lives in Texas.
So it's you.
Another piece.
So you're the eyes up here.
I'm the eyes up here, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Has elder abuse increased during COVID?
It has.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. Let's see. It appears absolutely, yes. There's no hard data in the United States, but Canada has reported a 10-fold increase since the beginning of the pandemic.
That's huge.
I know, it's incredible. Um, so it's definitely increased. I mean, you know, I think it has to do with the amount of stress that everybody is under. I guess the key thing is it has to do with that elders, the very thing that you know, that is recommended to protect elders and the rest of us from the spread
Right.
of COVID is the key factor, and also making them at risk for elder abuse. So the isolation, you know, when they're in a facility, nobody coming in to visit them, including their doctors and regular people who, you know, friends, family, doctors who might come in. Some families have moved, you know, some families are all living together. So already an older member of the family is living in the house. The high school or the school age kids are being homeschooled. The college kids have been sent home from college. And, you know, people, the family, the adults are living at, you know, working at home. I mean, the amount of stress has just been incredible on
Because they're all together all the time. Is that what you're
I
saying?
think that's a big piece of it.
Because
You know, it's just people have just been pushed to the max. You know, I mean, anxiety and depression have increased. They're reporting alcohol and drug consumption has increased, which is directly linked to abuse. You know, I mean, when people get drunk or high, they're more likely to abuse. So it's definitely financial stress, you know, people seeing their retirement savings going down, losing their jobs. It's just a crucible. I mean, it's just, it's a bad situation all around.
So what can we do during COVID? That's number one. And what can we do post-COVID to prevent, two questions, to prevent elder abuse?
Right. Well, I think we really need to put more resources, you know, in a formal level towards being aware of elder abuse. I mean, frankly, I don't think that Adult Protective Services in Massachusetts really has enough of a staff. As far as what individual, I think in some ways, I mean, one thing that has been done is when I bring up one of my, you know, anybody who has Medicare to a medical appointment, they get, you know, they get a questionnaire, and one of the questions is, do you feel safe at home?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you feeling that you're safe? Are you feeling threatened by anybody? So I think we need to have more formal systems, but also informal systems in place of checking in on each other. And, you know, younger members of the population checking in on older members of the population, you know, neighbors, relatives, just giving them a call, seeing how they are, stopping by for, I mean, you know, face-to-face visits are better. So now maybe what I call porch visits, or visits where you're both
Yeah,
masked
sure.
and 6 feet apart at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they, I know in Brookline, early on in this pandemic, there was a program started that linked high school students
Yes.
with elders, and like 2 phone calls a week. I mean, that type of thing is fantastic on so many levels.
Uh-huh.
And it's, you know, just in terms of having somebody check in on people, developing a relationship where maybe they'll trust you to say something, or maybe you'll notice something, maybe you won't, but the isolation is just deadly on so many levels. You know, it's.
I think Needham has a program like that, the Needham Senior Center. I'm not sure, and I don't know about the Wellesley, but my concern, and we say this in Brookline as an attorney, I've had some cases, but I found people reluctant
Yes.
to report or to talk about it.
Right.
I found witnesses reluctant to
Yes.
talk about it. I don't know how involved the police get. I just think it's the best kept secret, to be quite honest, elder abuse.
Absolutely. I mean, they feel, you know, often, not always, the person who's being abused feel like somehow they've caused this.
Yes.
You know, they might be afraid of the abuser, and, you know, afraid of retribution. There's shame involved. I mean, if your son's abusing you, your daughter's abusing you, I mean, that's, you know, I can understand being a parent, you feel pretty rotten about it and really not want to be telling people. It's a big issue. I mean, you know, very underreported, as I said early on, you know, 1 in 10 out of perhaps really 1 in 24 cases are reported.
So Heather, we only have a few minutes left, and this has been extremely enlightening for me to know that at least there are certain places where we could report it. What would your advice be to attorneys, number one, who come across a case and the client says, don't tell my kids I came to see you.
Well,
Don't report this to anybody. I need my kids, blah, blah, blah. What do I do?
I would think in a sense, you're not a mandated reporter.
No, there's client attorney privilege.
Yeah. So I guess you really just have to be, more aware of the program. I mean, of the problem, which you already are, and talk with them about it more and explain that it's not going to get any better not reporting it.
Right.
And most likely it will get worse.
And the press
help them think about what would be if they have the option of creating a safer situation for themselves.
Right.
Maybe looking at that.
The press doesn't really pay enough attention, I think, to elder abuse. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to inform and sort of encourage the press to do some stories. I mean, it's not going to sell news,
right,
but it saves somebody's life. That's how I look at it.
Exactly. Well, you're making me think that maybe with just what I gathered, doing this, preparing for this, maybe to put out a press release or something.
Yes.
It is saving somebody's life.
Or send what gathered different senior centers.
Yes.
And maybe to different geriatric doctors.
Yep.
I know they ask, do you feel safe? But they don't go any farther. And I can sort of understand because there's a line, but this is a conversation we need to have again.
Absolutely.
The last 2 minutes, what is your advice to all of us? And
well, my advice is I want you to take down these phone numbers so that you report it. Are you able to see these on your?
Yes, but maybe we can run them at the end of the show. We'll check after we finish. Okay. So,
to report the elder abuse to the, 800-922-2275 number, or the skilled nursing facility abuse, hospital abuse to the Department of Public Health here in Massachusetts, and to educate yourselves more. And I've got a number of resources here, the National Center on Elder Abuse, the National Adult Protective Services, and the Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs.
Heather, this has been terrific. You've done so much research. Thank you so much, Heather Hersee.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. This is just so important. And, people are, writing about it and researching it, but that information does not get to the general public.
And how do people reach you? What is your contact information?
Okay, it is, I'm Heather Hersee Care Management. So heatherherseecaremanagement.com. And
okay.
Heather at HH Care Management. It's actually HH Care Management is the web address.com.
Okay.
Google Heather Hersee Care Management. I'll pop up.
Great. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this segment. Okay. See you. You too.